Okay, it looks like we are back. I was really like, I was really a horrible person because before we started the interview, I said to Espen, "Oh, and now for the last 2, 3 weeks, we haven't had any kind of technical problems and uh, so on and so on." And okay, a little bit problems with Beltran's computer, but everything is perfect and we are back. Um, it says they write, but I see now the comments, but it's a little bit delayed on Facebook. So can everybody just write that you hear us and see us well now, to be sure that we are back and that everything is under control? You hear us well or not? You are also delayed. Let me just, Espen, before we continue talking.
Wait.
Yes, let's just be sure that we are back and that everything is okay. Okay, yes, people are coming back now, so let's wait just a little bit to be sure that everybody is back. They should just, I suppose, restart it. Let's see. What is happening to you, Valentina? To me, has right again live video interrupted. Beltran, can you follow it? Can you see it? Okay, yes. Yeah, I have refreshed, but I don't know. Let's see. Okay.
Hi.
Yes. Okay. People started to write all good here. Okay. Sorry for this little problem, but no, don't worry, Beltran. It's perfectly fine. But I don't know why to me all the time says live video interrupted. But okay, Valentina, try to catch the people and the comments because maybe, yeah, people say everything is perfect. So Espen, we are back. I'm not sure actually, like where did they lose us? Probably on the point of lure coursing. So maybe you can just repeat a little bit about this, and for the people who didn't hear it, because I'm actually have no idea when exactly the connection crashed.
Oh, well, you asked me a question about lure coursing with my dogs, and I do find it very fascinating. And I think, what can possibly be more important in a breed that they are able to perform their function. That's the reason why they're on this earth. That's the reason why they're here in the first place. So I'm very concerned that my dogs should keep their instincts and their ability to do their work. But unfortunately, in today's society, and certainly not here in Norway, we don't have the legal basis to go out hunting the live prey. There is very much a shortage of that live prey, and the terrain here, the geography here in Norway, doesn't allow for live coursing. So I do the second best thing, so they chase plastic bags, and they don't, happily they don't see too much of a difference between a rabbit and a plastic bag. But for me, it's quite important to. That's the best thing I can do to test if my dogs are still functional, and I'd like them to be. And there are many things they need to enable to be able to do that. I mean, like suppleness, turning ability, and try to catch a rabbit in its flight. It's not about speed. The dogs are much quicker than the rabbit anyway. It's about taking the turns to be able to kill the rabbit. And it's also about endurance, because if you go out on a field and you want to catch rabbits, what to do with one lousy rabbit? You're going to feed a big family, aren't you? So that dog has to fire again and again. It has to have the energy and the endurance to do repeated trials. And I'm concerned that my dogs would have that. And it has never came to the point where I had to choose one or the other, because some of my very, very best lure coursing dogs have also been among my very best show dogs. So yeah, there is a correlation. I think looking for that suppleness, the turning ability, and the energy and the stamina also comes in well in the show ring.
Yes, absolutely. Another interesting thing, when you talk about yourself as a breeder, you mentioned often that you are not an elitist, meaning that you have no problem to give your males to other people to use them, and you have no problem to sell the bitches to the people who want to start breeding greyhounds. Did you ever had a bad experience because of that?
Well, if you do get 10, 11, 12 puppies, you for sure can't keep them all yourself. So the
You can,
alternative
but you don't want to.
I had many, many more positive experiences with that. I have to adjust the picture a little bit because I'm greedy enough to keep the best bitches for myself. But if you have a litter of 6 bitches and I'm keeping 2, there might be a third or a fourth that might be good enough to start a breeding program with. And again, it also comes back to I want to treat others like I want to be treated. If I close the door on other people using my dogs, I mean, they are not for public stud in a way that everybody can use them. But if there is a serious breeder coming along, wants to use my males, fine, I let them do it. I don't keep many males anyway. And I might profit from that if the puppies are good. I mean, I would say yes to either bitches that I think are good enough to be bred from and that I might consider using one of the offspring on one of my bitches later on, or it is a breeder who's doing this with afterthought, who knows what they're doing. And even those people I would even let do combinations that I wouldn't have done out of respect for them. And I would be quite annoyed if I wanted to breed to somebody else's dogs and they said, no, this is just for me. So I don't think that is a good environment. I don't want to contribute to that. So I let other people use my dogs when I think it's a good reason to do it.
Okay. Okay, I think we have been speaking now almost 50 minutes about breeding, and I think that a lot of people who are speaking here are really impressed by this. But now let's move a little bit to your judging career. I know that for many years you used to travel all around the world judging sighthounds, sometimes even in your own expense because you were so curious to see the quality of sighthounds in different countries. When did you actually decide that you want to start to judge other breeds?
Well, luckily, I haven't paid a lot of those trips.
Yes.
It was
I know.
I was in the very start, I find it's fascinating to judge those. I mean, it's such a treat. It's such a discovery trip, such a treasure hunt. It gives you so many emotional highs. It gives you a lot of intellectual challenges as well. So it's a great thing to do. But another reason to do it is, of course, that you learn a lot from it. And it's also a great tool as a breeder that normally somebody else will pick up the bill because that's what they have to do. For you to see all those dogs all around the world and keep current, keeping an oversight of what's available, what different strains, how they combine, what they produce. But it's also such a learning experience. You grow, you improve. Hopefully, you get better at it.
Yes.
When you do it,
but you have been really for a long time. You were judging only sighthounds.
Yeah. So I felt to a degree. I might sound high-headed now, but I came after having judged sighthounds for a long time. I came to the point where my learning curve started to flatten out a bit. I still learned something, but not as much as I used to. I've always been interested in all breeds of dogs. So I put my toe out in the water and tried out some other breeds. And wow, the learning curve was peaking again. It was a great experience to try out your principles, trying out, the method of learning and see if it could work on other breeds as well. And it refueled me as a judge. I found, I took on challenges that really challenged me and gave me a lot of new insights. So I was lost from there on, I added more and more breeds, and sitting here today as an all breed judge.
Wonderful. Do you know in how many countries did you judge? Because you must be one of these.
Back to the numbers. Approximately 100.
My God. Okay, so not too many left. At least not too many left where the dog shows exist. But I'm sure there are a few more left, so you can still have some goals to go to some countries. It's like I think it's amazing to have that kind of experience, to see so many different countries and cultures and dogs in different countries. I think it's just like amazing, the possibility that the dog world gives to us.
Yeah, isn't it?
So yeah, it's just like unbelievable. Like if you talk to the normal people, I don't know, that would mean that we are abnormal. But when you talk to the people out of dog world and you say, well, I have been to 50, 60 countries around the world because of dog shows, they cannot believe it. But it's really amazing. Okay, now we go to one thing where I also want to hear your opinion, because your thinking on that subject is quite interesting. You often mentioned that before, in the past, when you were starting to judge, most of the judges were actually recruited from top breeders. It was the top breeders who were becoming judges. Nowadays, that's not really the case, and a lot of judges have never bred any litters. A lot of judges don't even have dogs at home. How do you look at that?
I think there are no rules without exceptions. But as a general rule, I think true dog people make better dog judges. When I'm choosing which shows I'm going to show my own dogs, I'm more likely to want the opinion from somebody who is a dyed-in-the-wool dog person. They don't necessarily perhaps have to be breeders, but at least serious dog people who have been exposed to a lot of good dogs. I think it helps to hone your eye if you're around good dogs a lot, if you see them a lot. I mean, even walking around with the poopy picker and just watching dogs, being around dogs, understanding dogs, caring for dogs, being concerned about dogs, enjoying dogs. I'm a bit skeptical about people who have never enjoyed the company of dogs. Are they really dog people? On the other hand, people like me who ride all horses at the same time, I breed, I show, I judge, are sometimes met with some skepticism. So for mixing roles. So I think we have to be conscious about that and doing that carefully. I tried, a good reason not being on Facebook is that it stops me from promoting my own dogs there. But no, generally, I think dog people, true dog people, should be the backbone of the judging community.
Okay.
Those people are the ones that I want to pay my money, their opinion.
Yeah. Tell me, before we start with the number of short questions, which are very famous in my interviews, let me ask you the last thing. Now you are an all breeds judge already for some time, and I spoke with most of my guests about this. Because of differences of types of dogs in many different countries, how difficult is to be an all breeds judge and go around and judge breeds which you are used to see in one way, and then go to one country and find them looking completely different, for example?
For me, it's very, very different. I'm only able to have one ideal in each breed. I have one template in my mind. And if none of the dogs fit that, or if they only fit it to a minor degree, I think I'm pretty useless as a judge then. I think it's, as opposed to a win-win situation, it's a lose-lose. So for instance, when judging in America, and I do that quite a lot, I now provide them with a list of breeds that I would rather not judge, because I don't think anybody will be happy. I know I'm not, and I presume that the exhibitors are not. It's not good for the show organizers. It's just, let them, I'm very happy to not judge English Springer Spaniels in America. That's fine.
Okay. So you
I
have
don't
again.
need to, and they don't need me. So it's more problematic. But of course, that can sometimes be explained because of differences in the standard. If it's something very sort of basic like colors, I don't find it difficult to judge Affenpinschers with alternative colors. I don't find it difficult to judge Schipperkes in England, even if they come in form, because it's such a definite thing. But those much less definable things, like just type difference, the look is different, that's much harder to adjust to. And I'm not so sure I want to. I'm not that adjustable. I don't need it. They don't need me. Leave it.
Okay.
It's more
So
difficult though when judging in, for instance, some breeds in South America where the dogs are very American influenced in some breeds, but they are still bred to the FCI standard, and I'm supposed to judge to the FCI standard. And in many of those countries, they will give you a whole group, so you can't just pick. You can't say I can do the group 7 and 8, but leave the Brittany's and the Golden Retrievers and the English Springer Spaniels for somebody else. That doesn't.
Exactly.
So then I do it to the best of my knowledge or experience, but I don't feel very comfortable about it. And yeah, but I also find that, you know, from some of the examples I mentioned, you do get an interesting outside perspective looking in on some of those breeds. Because if you take, for instance, the English Springer standard, they are virtually exactly the same in the UK and in America, although the dogs certainly are not.
Definitely.
And a breed like Shetland sheepdogs, when I read the American standard and the first word describing the head is refined, I look at the dogs and I think, you didn't read that, yeah. I'm not so sure the first word describing, I'm sure we disagree on that, Dante. I'm not sure. The first word describing the Shih Tzu in the American standard is sturdy. Well, I have to chew on that.
Yeah. But these are difficulties. But I mean, I mentioned already a few times, but you are really a smart person because you have managed to turn this situation, lose-lose situation with judging these breeds to win-win situation in which you just don't want to judge them if it's the possibility. So, I mean, I think a lot of people who are watching this, they are going to get some good ideas from you tonight. I'm sure about that. Okay, anyhow, now there is a series of short questions. And I don't know if you spoke with Anna or somebody else who has watched my interviews before, but this is the kind of questions where people start to do, oh, this is impossible to answer. Oh, this is so difficult. Oh, this is that. But I mean, I push and push and push until they don't answer. So it's in your, you really should answer it because I will not let it go until you answer it. Just a few questions.
They're that bad.
I'm horrible. I'm very pushy. First question, Espen. Best show you ever judged?
The best show I ever judged was the American Whippet Club National Specialty.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you would need to choose between the Greyhounds and Griffons, what would be your first pick?
Truly sorry to let them down, but I would pick the Griffons.
Okay. Okay. That's an interesting answer. Do you remember best in show lineup you ever judged?
It's a tricky thing that although there are many judges that whose opinions I value, there are very few who looks at it at the same way as I do. So when you are judging best in show, you very frequently see a lot of your favorites leave the ring and they don't come in for best in show.
Mm-hmm.
So being not the very modest kind, I think my best in show lineup was at Leeds when I did all the groups, because you're asking me.
Yes. Well,
and I chose all the group winners, so that I thought that lineup was at least my liking. They were, they had the traits that I was looking for. That was really very special. I had a really good lineup at Santa Barbara in California last year, and at Del Val about 10 years ago, also in California, had a few really good lineups, but it was special, and it was very much a privilege to judge all the groups and then best in show at a big show.
Yeah, exactly. You choose for yourself everything what you like, and
Yes.
then you make your life very complicated. But yeah, I can imagine that it is a kind of really great experience. Tell me, favorite greyhound of all times, not bred or owned by you, and the same for the Griffons.
Griffons is quite easy. That would be a Starbuck Crystal Rainbow, an English dog, 30 years ago. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Greyhounds, are you sure it has to be just one?
I'm sure it has to be just one. I can be a nice guy and I can say to you that you can say two.
And again, who has a photographic memory? For dogs, I have a pretty good memory, but still comparing dogs in different parts of the world, in different areas, in different centuries is very tricky. So it has to, I have to answer your question with the dogs that made the most impact on me, the most that impressed me the most.
Yes.
Which would be, if I have to choose two, I would choose a male and a bitch. I would choose the English bitch Charlotte Spode and the American dog Jericho Chasing the Wind.
Okay, perfect. I suppose that greyhound people will know these dogs. I don't know them, but I can say that you have given the answer which makes me happy. Best dog you ever bred?
Remember, you're talking to a breeder here. So
yeah, I know.
So the best dog I ever bred for myself would be the one dog that brought my breeding the most forward. And that would pretty easily be Jet-Headed Like a Snake. She came from a terrible litter. She was the only good puppy in that litter. And she was actually the only good bitch that mother produced. There wasn't a beta bitch in that generation, I tell you, because there was only this alpha bitch. She was a lot better than both her parents. She was tightly line bred to my own dogs. She had 3.5 litters because half a litter died from parvovirus. And she gave me 30 champions. And she was phenomenal herself. That it's too long ago, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
You have made my latest one, shouldn't I? Like all dog people do.
No. I gave you the possibility to promote on Facebook, but don't go so far, please. Anyhow, just looking at the comments, you have made somebody very happy with your answer about Leeds show. There is a lady called Debbie Person. She says, "Oh my God, how wonderful for him to say that! Gave me goosebumps. I was Leeds' best in show."
Yes. So, hello, Debbie.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Where did we? The favorite win with your own dogs.
Well, again, being a breeder, I treasure probably all the breed club shows, all the national specialties that I competed and won. Maybe especially winning the English Greyhound Club show and the French one, which was huge. There are quite a lot to choose from. Vera, one of the daughters of Headed Like a Snake, she won Best in Show at Helsinki International one weekend and at Stockholm International the next weekend. That was pretty special. Best in Show at Windsor was great. There are lots. But
okay, now you have said at least 6 and I have asked for one, but okay.
I have to cheat you.
Yes, you are trying really. Like, okay. One breed you never had at home and you would like to have?
Dandy Dinman Terriers.
Okay. One dog person that is not alive anymore and you terribly miss?
There are many. Yeah.
Of course.
That I terribly missed. It's probably an unlikely answer coming from me, but at this moment, I miss Göran Bodegård.
Okay. Tell me like this: one breeder in the world that, in your opinion, continues to breed top dogs year after year, and then if you can say one breeder from Norway and one breeder from all the other, from the rest of the world.
That are still active.
Doesn't need to be.
Well, again, lots and lots, of course. I was very happy to see that Pat Craig-Trotter was judging Best in Show at Westminster. I think she's done a great job with our national breed. I think she's a great breeder, so that would be one.
Okay, and the Norwegian one?
I think well, for me, probably the most talented breeder we ever had in Norway is Ostriachki, Top Score Poodles.
Okay. Only 3 more questions, so that will be easy. One judge who is still active in the dog world that you really admire, or let's say it easily, for you, a best still active judge. One from Norway and one from the rest of the world.
I will cheat a little bit then, but this one is actually from Norway, Annika Ultveitmo.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she is extraordinarily talented, has a great eye for dogs, and truly knows dogs. My role model as a judge and my idol, and partly also my mentor as a judge, was Rainer Woerden. He's alive, but he's not judging, I think.
Yeah, but
he still count. I thought
yeah,
Rainer had it all. I mean, he had the talent, the eye, the integrity, the knowledge, the style, the character. I mean, he, to me, was just the perfect judge. And as he's still alive, I think I'll pay him the tribute. I'm also very fond of Teixeira from Portugal. I think he's probably he's one. I admire him a lot. I think he's really.
Mikael Nilsson is very, very happy that you have mentioned the Top Score Poodles as one of the best breeders. He says great choice. Okay, 2 more questions. You are organizing your last dinner, and you can invite 5 persons. Doesn't matter if they are alive or they are not alive. Which 5 you would invite?
Oh gosh! Don't you get the same answer from everybody that is impossible?
Can't at least to sweat and to say this is difficult, this is impossible. So don't feel special.
Can I have 2 tables at least?
No. You can have just 1 table and only 5 people.
Okay, I'll have a table of only ghosts then.
Okay.
I think. Again, I would find it the most interesting to have a dinner table with the great breeders. Gladys Dyke with the Hadley Pomeranians in the UK. I would invite Raymond Oppenheimer, Ormandy Bull Terriers, and I would invite Gwen Brodley of the Sandyland Labradors. I would invite. See, I like pedigrees. You know, pedigrees can be such a work of art that it's, you know, give you a true kick to just look at some of the great breeders' pedigrees and see how they plan it. And for that reason, I would like to have Jean Lyle of the White Cliff Standard Poodles in Canada. Incredible baby. Talk about inbreeding to the. I mean, she would have been banned halfway down her breeding. So,
okay.
She
1 more is missing.
Belong there, and if I only have ghosts, I need to find another ghost. We've had some really great breeders here in Scandinavia. No, I would like to have Cyril, the von Havenstadt guy from Belgium.
Yes, Cyril was a great guy. I was lucky enough to meet him before he died, and he was like really a kind of inspiration. Okay,
so that was
last
fine.
question.
Yeah.
Last question of this difficult question. In your mind or in your memory, the best dog you ever judged, or the dog that has impressed you the most when you judged him? Doesn't matter which breed it is. And I don't need the name. if you say the breed and where it was, people will connect it.
Yeah, but I know the names of the dogs I judge. You know, I'm interested enough to look into the catalog and look at their pedigrees. So, there have been some instances where I've had a sort of an emotional high, you know, and I enjoy my emotional highs. I do enjoy my goosebumps and that little tear in my eye, and those occasions. That's also partly why I do this. You know, the enjoyment of having this. You know, this Bodgaard used to say it was almost an erotic experience, and
yes,
I can sort of relate to that even. So I judged Salukis at the World Show in Bratislava, and in the males, I had a fantastic male who was actually Dog of the Year in Sweden, and he was best in show at one of the European shows. She had asked California Dreaming. And I thought, my God, how lucky am I to have this dog? And, you know, he will look so good in the group. Then came the bitches. And I had this bitch from Finland. And I totally lost it. Just absolutely lost it. Because I was supposed to do a short critique. And I wasn't able to because I couldn't say anything. I was so impressed with that bitch. And that was probably my number one experience I ever had. Because I was like a little child crying in the ring when I saw her. And her name was Aziz Sanu. And she came from Finland. That would be my
wonderful. That was a nice story. Okay, now from these short questions which are difficult to answer, we go to a little bit longer questions which are even more difficult to answer. We have talked about you as a breeder, we have talked about you as a judge, but because you are not on Facebook and nobody has any idea what do you think about the things that are happening in the world at the moment, I'm going to ask you now that.
Maybe I don't know.
Yes. My first question is related to the Norwegian Kennel Club. I know you work there, and I see that there are a lot of people, a lot of breeders who are collecting the money for your kennel club because it's facing difficulties in finances and so on. Do you know how is the situation now, and do you know actually what has happened?
Well, the breed clubs and individuals have raised a lot of money to save our kennel club, and that should get them through in a longer perspective. They also received now reasonably substantial funds from the government, because the Norwegian government has used a lot of money to keep Norway going. But the kennel club fell outside of those measures.
Measures.
For quite a while, but now they're in. So I'm reasonably sure the Norwegian Kennel Club will survive, but it did look bleak for a while. You see, they are so depending on the income from shows, and we've all said that, you know, it's not a bank; they shouldn't put a lot of money aside. Maybe that wasn't that wise. You know, I agreed on that, but the fact that the Norwegian Kennel Club organizes all the major shows and take the financial risk of in that, and then when there are no shows, there is no income or very reduced income. That has made them very vulnerable. It's a bit the same in Denmark, but it has hit the Norwegian Kennel Club really badly. And they didn't have a lot of money to start out with because they lost a lot of money last year when we had this disease in dogs, this gastrointestinal. I'm not worried anymore about our kennel club going bankrupt. My breed club has given the kennel club a loan, and a lot of people, that's what they ask for. They also have a lot of gifts, and the Norwegian dog people have really stepped up, and I'm sure we will keep the kennel club alive, even if they need more money. I think they could have made it more clear what they needed the money for, and there are objections, but now let's save them, and then we can talk about it later. It's a bit like surviving the corona for the rest of us. Where were the contingency plans when that happened in the society, in the country? It wasn't. We're not bitching about that now. We'll bitch about that later. Now we're busy surviving.
Okay, I suppose I will have to invite you to be my guest in 1 year again to see about this a little bit more. Anyhow, you have a big thank you from Annika Ultveit-Moe for mentioning her. So she was listening to you, and you made her very happy. Let's go to the next question.
I didn't hear that.
I'm okay. I have you back. I lost you for a second.
Your picture is freezing.
Okay, am I frozen now? Let's see what is. Do you hear me, Espen? Espen, it's your connection. Okay, so.
I lost you too.
Okay, but now I hear you again. Let's see. Maybe, yes, now. But now we have him back, yes.
There's freezing in my picture.
Okay, maybe it would be good, Beltran, to just to put off and connect again,
I
or
hear
what do you
you.
think? Okay, okay, if I'm frozen, that's not a big deal. Probably it will come. Probably it's just a connection, so we can continue. Tell me, Espen, I suppose you have heard about this situation in the Netherlands and these 12 breeds that cannot be bred anymore unless they have this 0.3 nose length and so on and so on. You as a breeder of Griffons, which are one of these 12 breeds, and also as a veterinarian, can you tell me what are your thoughts on this thing?
Of course, I'm very sad about that happening, and it's in a way surreal. Especially, well, we can't deny that boas exist, that there are. It is well or not? Is it working?
It's a little bit coming and going, but try to now. I think it's better. Try to repeat. Okay, try now again. I think now it should be okay. Yes,
Yeah.
now it's better. Yes.
Of course, I'm very sad that.
Beltran, what are you saying? Okay, but now we have him again, and it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's try, Espen. I think it's okay now.
Yeah, I'm very sad that this has happened because normally you would believe that facts and reason and science would prevail, and in this case, it certainly hasn't. There is no denying that some breeds have breathing difficulties, but we know for a fact that the length of nose is one of the least significant factors causing this. So to reduce this into measuring the length of nose and comparing that to the length of skull is a completely wrong way of going about it. And it's harming the true breeders, the real breeders, the serious breeders, the breeders that are trying to breed to the standard. It will not harm the not so serious breeders who will either adjust to it and breed something Griffon-like, but not really Griffon, or certainly not all those who are not registering puppies at all, the puppy mills, the ones that are selling puppies off the street. So it's a sad day, and we really have to unite to prevent this from spreading to other countries. I do think we are not, as a whole in the dog world, able to be proactive enough and to see things coming. Society has for a long while more or less left us to ourselves, and we have been very happy with that. Don't put your nose into what we are doing. And we've had some really bad awakenings where, certainly that TV program, Pedigree Dogs Exposed, was one of those that was a sort of a watershed. We need to use our resources partly to make sure that we have healthier breeds, but the way they are going about it in Holland is really not a good way, and it's a sad day. I have a couple of examples in Norway that it can work to be more proactive. because when they introduced regulations in Sweden as to how to keep dogs, we were quite very quickly, the dog community in Norway took the initiative to make rules for that within the dog community. So the government never had to do it. We don't have any regulations on how to keep dogs in Norway. We have kennel club rules to prevent that. We invited the ministry and the animal welfare organization into our own work on making rules as to how to keep dogs, and that kept them silent. Neither the authorities or the animal welfare organizations have been very critical about rules for keeping dogs in Norway. On the other hand, we have a bad example when we had a very sad example when a group of huskies killed a boy in Norway, and there was an outcry, and out of that came the banning of several breeds. It was really hard to be proactive with that. Who would expect that those huskies to kill that boy, and who would expect that as a result of huskies killing a boy, they would ban American Staffords and
Exactly.
Dogo Argentinos.
Yes.
But it does help to be proactive. We just have to be more in touch with what's happening in society and prevent it. And we now have to join efforts to stop what's happening in Holland from happening here.
Yeah. Are you afraid that this decision of the Dutch government is going to have a kind of domino effect, and that some animal welfare organizations will try to bring these rules to other countries?
Absolutely. I think we are, to a certain degree, prepared here in Norway, because we've done much of the same as we did with the regulations on keeping dogs when it comes to the brachycephalic breeds. Invited authorities and animal welfare organizations to sit down and truly discuss it and base our measures on knowledge and scientific proof, rather than just stupidity and on populistic approaches, like I think this is. But then populism is very popular in many walks of society. And I also think we have to be a bit more aware of the fact that we do live in democratic societies, and that if you ask the majority of people, they might not agree with us when it comes to docking of tails, for instance.
Yes.
And we need an active international organization like FCI, well, not like FCI, to be very wary of this. And I'm happy to see that, I think they are. I think this question of the brachycephalic breeds, FCI will take an active role, already is showing that they are. They certainly did not when it came to banning of breeds, because I was quite active in the Kennel Club at the time. And the first thing we did was to contact the FCI and ask, don't you think it's a bad idea to ban breeds? And we got nothing out of them. If we could have gone back to our political authorities in Norway and say, we have a world organization with 95 countries behind us when we say it's stupid to ban those breeds, it might have helped. We didn't get anything from the FCI at that time. I do think, and I do hope, that the FCI will step up this time, but I think they will.
Yeah. This is the problem that I think we are facing. Most of these rules, and I mean, you mentioned one of the rules, like the huskies attacked the boy and they banned breeds which had nothing to do with this, and it's the same thing in the Netherlands now. They are banning the breeding of these 12 breeds, and they want them to get a longer nose, but there are absolutely no scientific proofs saying that once when they will have long noses that they will be healthier, which means that this whole thing is just can I say bullshit? I suppose. Absolutely. I can be.
Quite to the contrary, we know a lot now about what actually causes the respiratory problems in those breeds, because there are a lot of dogs, individual dogs, that have them problems, but it's not. I mean, the length of nose is a very minor thing compared to the palate, the larynx, the weight. There are so many other factors that are much more clearly linked to the problems, and the length of nose is just a blind road.
Yes, and I think this is one of the biggest problems.
And then sort of like often pinchers, hello.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but it is what it is. And I mean, another problem, and I want to ask you about that. Another problem is that the Kennel Club is saying they are not going to register puppies coming from the crossbreeds. But in a way, you as a Griffon breeder, if you want so dramatically to change the length of the nose, can you find a dog in the world, a Griffon, who has a long nose without putting another breed inside?
Possibly, but you have already lost the breed and you lose everything else. So I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to see that dog, and I certainly wouldn't want to breed to it. So
Yeah, exactly.
no, we can do this. It takes time to change, and it takes time to improve, but we can do this by gradual selection, and we can test our dogs by exercising and then measuring the by going about it in the way that the Cambridge University, for instance, spells out. I think that's a clever way, and it's well documented. It's based on science, and give us some time. And Griffons are not the worst in this case either. There are lots of Griffons with no breathing problems, so I don't have to go to a long-nosed dog to improve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but this is the problem, as you said, when people start without any knowledge just to generate the things. I mean, when I had Mick and Edwin as my guests, they were mentioning these studies from this agri insurance company in Sweden, and when they were listing the breeds which have these BOAS diseases, out of all the breeds existing, for example, Affenpinchers were on the number 77, which just proves that this whole thing has no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the sense? It's like as senseless as banning American Staffordshire Terriers for being killers.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think Affenpinchers is the worst example.
Yeah,
that should never be on such a list.
You have mentioned the FCI. So if I would ask you if you could give to the FCI one advice, what should be done urgently about this matter, which advice would you give them?
To be the glue, to form arenas where we will discuss how to prevent the spread of this, and it's very urgent because politicians are very eager to be seen to do something. They're not always occupied with this having an effect or not. So urgently, I think FCI has to go deeply into this, connect people, connect decision makers within our own community, and to spell out how to go about stopping the spread of this, because it can certainly kill the whole dog sport. Now you're asking a Griffon breeder, so I'm concerned about it from my own personal perspective, of course, but it's truly important that we stick up for this, and not just the people that are active in these breeds. It can for sure happen to you. You can end up on a banned breed list because somebody just thinks you belong there. It was exactly the same when those breeds were banned. There was no scientific proof. There was not even a statistic that showed that those breeds were actually more dangerous than others. It would have been even better if we had been more proactive, because we could have seen it coming. But we have to repair it now, and an initiative very quickly to make an international strategy to stop this from spreading. And I'm sure there will be plenty of people who have good ideas on how to go about this. And we do have a lot of resources within our dog community, a lot of people with connections and with knowledge about how to go about this. And as I said, we did manage to stop getting very strict limitations on how to keep dogs in Norway, or at least we got rules that the dog people are reasonably happy with.
Yes.
Again, there was a problem that some dogs did not have enough exercise, that they were kept in very confined spaces. But we realized that, and I think dog people are much more able to create and find the solutions to this than politicians who doesn't know anything about it. And I'm sad to say that I think a lot of veterinarians are also very misguided and are misguiding a lot of others. And some of these so-called experts that not necessarily ever owned a dog or were active in dogs are giving advice very freely and are listened to.
Yeah, and I mean, the dog world is actually like facing in the last 10 years with these different kinds of prohibitions, let's say on a monthly basis, with banning the, I mean, it started with cropping and docking, then it was banning the breeds, then no hairspray, then no chain leash, then no table arm. I mean, do you think that the whole sport is actually in a really big danger by all these things happening all the time?
Yes, I do. I think we are challenging some. We have some real challenges ahead of us, and we can't just close our eyes to that or turn a blind eye to it. And it is happening gradually, and I think we have some things we need to dwell with ourselves. It is really hard to I think to argue for the cropping of ears, for instance. If you're going to have a lot of clout, if you're going to be believable when you say that your ambition is to improve animal welfare or dog welfare, I think, for instance, and I know this is very controversial, but a world organization that has no opinion about the cropping of ears doesn't have a lot of clout when it comes to discussing animal welfare.
Yeah, I mean that's as you said, that's a very controversial subject because I find it in a way that that when this thing with cropping and docking started, in a way that's the point where everything went the wrong direction, because the governments or the politicians have actually make us say that for years and years and years we were actually maltreating our own dogs for aesthetical reasons. So we have, in a way, admitted to the general public that we have been really harming our own pets for the aesthetical reasons. In the moment when this story of cropping and docking came to the USA, the American Kennel Club said we are not cropping and docking dogs for the aesthetical reasons. We are doing it because it's proven that when you for the working breeds, when you crop the ears, they hear better, which is important for the purpose that they have. We dock the tails because for the hunting breeds and so on and so on, it's easier like this. Which one of the two things was smarter?
Well, I think cropping and docking are two very different things. And personally, I have very little objections against docking of tails done at a very early age. I think that's a minor thing. But I do recognize that if you go out in the street in my democracy, Norway, and ask people, is it okay that we cut off tails? I think a relatively small minority would say it's okay.
Yeah.
They are the same people that elect our parliament who will then pass the laws. And, I have to relate to that, whether I agree on it or not. When it comes to cropping of ears, I think it's totally unacceptable. I think it is cruelty to animals, and I think it's sad that it's the so-called dog lovers that fight for it.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned veterinarians at some point, and I mean, let's say the kennel clubs all around the world, and also the FCI, between the breeders and between among the breeders and among the top judges, there are a lot of veterinarians. Are the kennel clubs and the FCI in general using enough these people to give another story to the general public?
I do think we should recognize our internal veterinarians, and I'm perhaps using myself as an example, then I'm perhaps a little bit surprised that as a long-term veterinarian and as an active breeder of Griffons, my kennel club has never asked me to contribute anything on boas. So I don't know. Yes, I think it's a big difference between the active dog people that are also veterinarians and a lot of the others, and certainly a lot of the newer ones that has seemed to have quite a biased view on breeders and breeding. It scares me. In my day, the vets and the breeders seem to be more on the same team. Today, I find a lot of veterinarians being on a very different team than mine.
Yeah, this is what I have mentioned in the last few interviews, that I have this feeling that in the past the breeders and the veterinarians were actually really partners, and partly because I think that and I think it's the same thing now, and you will know it because you work in that profession. I mean, breeders leave a lot of money to veterinarians, so it's quite strange that at some point some organizations have managed, let's say, to brainwash the new generations of veterinarians and let them go against the breeders when actually breeders bring them a lot of money. I don't understand why that has happened.
I don't either, but I to quite a degree agree with your observation. Sad to say.
Yeah. Okay, we are now 1 hour 40 minutes, and we are near to end this very interesting interview, which I think has been for many people quite inspirational, because by the comments, and there are like millions of comments, and I have tried to catch them, but I'm not managing to catch a lot. Okay, Valentina has prepared some for me, so I'm going to read some of the comments and some of the, if there are some questions for you, before I ask my last question. Let me see. Just okay. I always have problems with her computer. Okay. Anna Saboy saying, make sure you ask Espen about the Afghan Hound World Congress in San Diego.
Yeah. That was well. When you asked about the best show I have judged, I would say the best show I ever attended was that, or the whole Congress. Just the idea of bringing everybody together across the whole world who shares a passion, a true interest for the same breed. That World Congress in San Diego was an out of the body experience. And we tried to create something a bit similar by organizing the first World Congress for greyhounds here in Norway, and it's seems to be taking off. Just to get people together who shares the same passion, the same enthusiasm, the same it meant a lot. It was an absolutely amazing experience.
Okay. We have
and to see 117 Afghan champions in the ring at the same time too. Yeah, and one photographer managing to take a photo of 117 Afghan champions in the ring at the same time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. We have a question from Brina Tomer. She says, I admire your way of breeding in quite a scientific way. Do you never go by gut feelings?
That's not my strong point. As for instance, picking puppies, my mother was much more clever. I need to wait to see when they grow up and to analyze. I wish I had more green fingers. We had a competitor in greyhounds here for many years, the Dogcastle Kennel. And she had that to the absolute extreme. She could also be mentioned as one of the great breeders. A gut feeling, a talent. She could put together dogs that intellectually didn't belong together at all. I mean, I always thought with many of her litters that they would prove disasters. She was almost always right. She could put a goat to a duck, and it ended up as a beautiful greyhound. I don't have that ability. I don't have that talent.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I have asked you this question before, but you didn't answer to it. Senja Makinen is asking, are there some articles online about this Jets breeding program? I know something has been written in this Best in Show magazine's interview that Anna did with you. I don't know if there is somewhere. Is there something on your website maybe about it?
Yes, there are some interviews on the website, but I think this book that this Finnish guy wrote, Keys to Top Reading,
Okay.
that to me, I mean, I'm one of the breeders that were lucky enough to be asked to contribute to that, but that could give an explanation of sort of the system that my mother and I have used, but it will also give you information about many other breeders and how they went about it. So I would actually recommend reading that book. And as a Finnish person asking the question, I think she would find it not too difficult to obtain that book.
Yeah, probably. Okay, we have a question from Rachel Dick-Horsnoy. She's saying more and more breeders go all the way to save a puppy with the bad start. What do you do and where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I certainly draw the line with breeding from it. At least here in Norway, we have the opportunity to stop puppies from being bred from. So I think the most important thing for the future of the breed and the health of the breed is to stop those puppies from, you know, it's excusable to let them live, and it's probably politically correct to let them live. But certainly the limit is they should never be bred from if they, and so make sure of that at least. Does that make any sense? Is it
yes,
answer to the question?
Yeah, I think yes. Well, I mean, we should ask the lady, but for me, yes. Simon Burton is saying, great listening to Espen. Interested to know which UK bred greyhound he considers the best he has ever seen and why.
One of the two that I did mention, Charfleet's Bode, was UK bred. She lived in the, you know, around the mid-70s when there were big competition, and that kennel itself, Charfleet, Barbara Wilton Clark, produced a number of great greyhounds. You know, you can choose and pick between many of them. And she had another very close breeder to her, who bred on from the very much the same lines, called Frank Brown with the Sean Malleys. He also had remarkably beautiful dogs, and quite a lot of them. But there have been more recent dogs that have impressed me. The big red Windspiel Northern Style would be one that I thought was very beautiful. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Sana Norjohanski is asking you, I would like to know how Espen does his selection of puppies and stud dogs in general.
I make the selection of puppies from the bottom, so to say. In most litters, there are some puppies that are obviously not the ones that you're going to keep. So I try to get rid of those by selling them, giving them away. I will keep as many as I need to be sure I make an accurate selection. It's not a lazy way of doing it. If there are, as I concentrate on bitches, it's mostly the bitches we're talking about, and I make sure that the very good males go to really good homes so that I can trust that they get the best possible environment and the best possible upbringing. But so there isn't one answer to that. I keep them as long as it takes to be sure that I keep the best one. Sometimes that's pretty obvious. With Headed Like a Snake, it was totally obvious. With another one of my best dogs, Pink Panther, we had to hide her when puppy buyers were coming to see, because absolutely everybody would pick her. In a big litter of like 10, there wasn't one person who could see those puppies. They wouldn't want anyone but her. So in the end, we had to hide her when they came to puppies, and they loved the other ones as long as they hadn't seen her. So that was a very easy choice. But more often now than not, my litters are much more even than they used to be. So it's not obvious who to keep. I have running on three greyhound bitch puppies right now, and I can't tell you when I'm ready to make the selection. Most probably at 12 months or 14 months or something like that, because then I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then the last question which I have here is from Anna Madon. She's asking, what is Espen's opinion about Salukis nowadays? They are more and more strong and tall and overangulated.
I think Salukis have always been very inconsistent. Salukis have always been all over the place. I don't like them too strong, and I certainly don't like them overangulated. It's a breed which should be moderate. Moderate means not too much, neither too little. And yes, I agree. It's a problem that they are becoming overangulated behind. And there are quite a few dogs that are too strong and just too much. On the other hand, there are also some that are too fine. But I, to quite a degree, agree with the statement.
Yeah. Okay, so let's read a few more comments for the end, because now you have managed to overpass even Petrus 1 hour and 50. But I mean, it was so interesting that if it was boring, trust me, I would stop you a long time ago. But it was very, very interesting, and people really loved it. And we had like between 200 and 300 people all the time online, which is I think one of the biggest number of people following one interview here, and there will be for sure a lot who will see it later on. So Debbie Person is saying, love how open and honest this interview is. Trina Shepers says, thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts and experience, really interesting. Nicola Spencer saying, interesting perspective on the change in perception of breeders by the veterinary profession, and one that many of us around the world will recognize. Perhaps this is born more out of lack of experience and education. Do you feel it could ever be feasible to have a coalition of vet breeders working alongside kennel clubs and veterinary schools worldwide to better inform and encourage new veterinarians to work more positively with conscientious breeders?
Absolutely. And that's one thing that has regressed in this country. Our dog community and actually the kennel club was much more involved in the education of veterinarians before. Another person that I should have had around my dinner table was our old general secretary of the kennel club, Olav Roig, who was also an all-rounder who judged all around the world a lot of years ago. He spent hours and hours and hours educating veterinarians, and it was partly on his initiative, and so that made the foundation for like a coalition between. I mean, every veterinary student had been taught by him on dogs, and like kinology. So I think we need to invest in the new generation of veterinarians. They, as you say, they depend on us. We provide their bread and butter.
Exactly. Yeah. Heidi Peat Arelsen saying, it is strange that the Norwegian Kennel Club didn't ask Espen, as a veterinarian and well-known breeder, to speak about boas. Let me see what more we
Heidi has been that herself, and she's very clever.
Yeah. Simon Burton, thank you, Espen. Spode certainly looks to be a beautiful beach from photos of her. Lynn Bowley say, love that story about hiding the puppy. Dimitri Santonopoulos saying, thank you, Espen. Mike Koyman said, love this interview, thank you so much. Martin Crosser saying, agree with Espen completely. Tali Azar, fantastic interview. Can we keep going? No, we cannot keep going. Olga Forlitz, always fantastic to listen to my mentor and friend.
Hi, Olga.
Yuli Stravolamo, once again, a really amazing interview of a great dog person. I had the pleasure to assist Mr. Engh's late mother at a show many years ago, and I learned a lot from her that day. Let's see what more. Well, actually, a lot of people, there are so many. Okay, let's see. We have one interesting comment, if I manage to come to it. Okay, so the president of the FCI was watching the interview, and Tamas is saying, "Great interview. I'm happy that Espen has some advices, what we already started to work out within the FCI, and many other people who are thinking that the interview was amazing. So I think maybe you should join Facebook. Maybe it's the time for you, at least to join for a few days, that you see the interview online, and that you manage to see all the amazing comments that we got about the interview. So my last question for you tonight, Espen, and before I ask this question, I really want to thank you once again, not only for accepting the invitation, but also for being interesting and inspiring and funny and charming. And I have really enjoyed talking to you for 2 hours. I don't think we have ever spoken for 2 hours in live, so it was really, really amazing. My last question for you for the end of this interview would be, what kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to become successful in the dog world, no matter if as a breeder, exhibitor, or a judge?
Focus on the breed level. Join breed club. Go to specialties where you can meet the backbone of the breed, which are the serious breeders. Use a large perspective. No one country has a monopoly on knowledge, or certainly no monopoly on excellent dogs. So use a wide perspective. Invest as much as you can in seeing good dogs and talking to clever dog people. And most of the clever dog people are also the successful dog people. There are quite a lot of people that could misguide you, because and they are generally not the successful people. So be careful who you choose as your advisors and your mentors. But you can meet them all, probably, both the ones that you can learn from and the ones that you should stay away from. You could meet all of them at the big specialties.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Espen. We have been almost 2 hours. I really thank you so much for doing it. And I'm sure that now I'm going to get 100 of messages, people saying we want a part two, we want a part two. So maybe in the near future, I'm going to ask you again to be my guest. Thanks a lot, and enjoy your evening. And I hope to see you live somewhere soon when the show starts again.
Same to you, Ante. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.